12% chance of he had a negative 39 plus minus, the worst of any game in his entire career. He did that really feel you like a big man. You have to take a football game.
I just want to sit there and just tell Patrick Beverly one thing. Don't ever call you and James Harden like y'all are alike. That's James Harden's problem. Patrick Beverly don't show up out of shape. Patrick Beverly is going to be whoever Patrick Beverly is. Whatever you're going to get from Patrick Beverly, defense is your thing. That's what you're going to get. The problem with James Harden is that he doesn't give you what he needs to give you when he counts most. I love the brother. I'm wishing him well. You know, I know what a big-time talent he is, but he ain't you. If he had that mentality, he wouldn't have took you 2 shots in the second half on a closeout playoff. Don't ever say that again. I have no comment. Don't ever say that again. Let's move on.
All right, we'll go back to Chris Paul there. So was this CP3's last shot at a title?
I believe it is. I believe it is. I agree with get your chance. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Golden State, I believe, is going to be even better next year because I think Clay will be better. I think Jordan Poole will be better. I think Wiseman will be back. He'll have an addition to his body. Steph Curry ain't faded because shots like that don't just go away. And I think that Golden State is going to be a team to be reckoned with. Dallas is clearly going to be a team to be reckoned with. I'm going to give Minnesota some love since Bev is sitting right next to me because Karl Anthony Towns can call that brother Anthony Edwards is something different. That brother is something different. He is something different, and he's coming. Memphis is here. They just have to go through what they have to go through. You already know Memphis. Now, I don't know how they're going to keep it together in the future because you got a lot of cats that's going to be looking to get paid in the next couple of years or so. But I think next year Memphis is going to be there. So that's 4 teams right there. We got to sit up there. We got Golden State. We got Dallas. We got Memphis. We got Minnesota. All right?
Healthy Denver.
Healthy Denver. Oh, Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. coming back. We can't ignore them. That's 5 right there. Okay? Clippers. If Kawhi and Paul George come back healthy, which we have every reason to believe is going to happen. That's 6
You haven't said the Lakers.
After 16, I haven't said the Lakers yet because I want to see a little higher than coach. That matters to me. That matters to me.
So more than their roster?
I'm not saying more than their roster, but I think the coach is going to have something to do with the roster. So you got to have somebody that's going to hold cats accountable, sit them down,
I'm just
move out of the way.
Whatever coach they get, I'm just questioning. I don't want to talk about the Lakers right now.
Well, you want to go to He did.
He said the Lakers, and I have a problem with it.
He said it. I didn't bring up the Lakers.
The Lakers, you said the coach. I'm sorry, you said the coach. It doesn't matter if the coach is that roster. And what's past after this?
What
What did you change about the roster?
All of it. Don't get me. Well, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook. To me, you can't. He can't. That's not a fit for him. Number 1. Number 2, you can't be at their press conference talking about you wearing purple and gold and you arrived there. You never had any expectations. That's not what Lakers basketball is all about. You got to make a move. So in that regard, Anthony Davis has got to get healthy. If Anthony Davis is healthy, LeBron is healthy, they're going to be somebody to mess with, no doubt. But without the Lakers, I gave you 6 teams before I even got to the Phoenix Suns. And all I'm saying to you is this. I think this was Chris Paul's best chance. As presently constructed. Of course, Phoenix to make a deal or something to change. But as presently constructed, this is it. Phoenix will not be in this position next year as presently constructed. I think this was CP3's best chance.
Why are we, again, I don't want to keep beating on the same drum, but why are we steady messing with Phoenix Suns like established?
But they were the defending Western Conference champions last year. They won 64 games this year.
That's it.
That's why.
So that's why you give them.
No, I'm saying that's why we were talking about it.
Okay. All right, I got it then. I understand. So I just have to go to the Western Conference and I have to win a bunch of games and then I'll be considered. Minnesota Timberwolves be considered one of the greatest teams. Okay, got it.
Not one of the greatest teams ever. The greatest team. If you won 64 games this year and was the number 1 seed fresh off a game in the finals the year before, we'd have been talking about you too. But with all due respect, Beverly, y'all did get bounced out of there.
50 games.
Okay, but you lost the first round, right?
Yeah.
Did you?
We did.
Okay.
Because I was on the last show and the guy went to win. The guy named we spoke about this team got a great team. I just was trying to get the definition of a great team. So 63 games is a great team.
I think being in the finals last year and a chance potentially to go to the Western Conference
Unless you're willing to stay for the regular season doesn't matter.
No, I didn't say.
I know you didn't say
I said health matters, though.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That Kawhi was healthy.
You did say 50 games. Did y'all win the game? Did you say that? Did you bring that up?
Yeah.
So what you say about 64 wins then?
I guess they're a great team.
Right now.
All right, JJ, get in here. Is this CP3's last shot at winning a title?
As President construct, absolutely it is. I think they missed a big opportunity at the trade deadline to get a third shot creator. You know, a guy like Eric Gordon, they maybe could have got. And granted, Eric Gordon is not a superstar, but when they blitzed Devin Booker and they basically blitzed CP, or they switched everything with CP, he wasn't able to get to the elbow. They needed a guy who could get a shot. They needed a guy who could put pressure on the rim. Eric Gordon drives and he hits threes, and that's not the Phoenix Suns shot profile. That's the guy they're missing to me, is a guy like that. The big question mark about them going forward, what do they do with DeAndre Ayton? Because at times, I think sometimes I look at their team, and Ayton's fantastic. He's okay. Okay, that's fine. He's fantastic at punishing mismatches. In the two-man pick and roll with him and CP, they're the #1 offensive doer among high-volume pick and roll players. So he is fantastic. He's going to be fantastic. And he's 22 years old. He's going to have that with any role in big. So that's not okay. You had it with DeAndre Lewis. I'm talking about the last 2 years. We'll go back 6 NBA seasons. That was the best duo. For anybody Chris Paul has played with, that was the best duo. Okay. Just DeAndre. So he's fantastic. My point is, there's times where I think, having that traditional rim protecting, rim running big, like he's the one guy in your roster you can facilitate a sign and trade with, and potentially bring back a third player, a wing player that can get you buckets, they can guard. They just don't have that third option right now.
Let me say this to you about DeAndre first. And I want to make sure that I'm clear about this. I'm not questioning how good he is. He's young, he's talented, he's a 7-footer. I think he's got some promise, no doubt about that. He wants max dollars. I'm not sure he deserves that. But I will say this to you, because you do pay for projecting what you're going to do moving forward. You were drafted #1 in the same draft that Doncic was taken. And you got Trae Young. Well, I just brought up because of yesterday's match. Right. But Trae Young was a part of yesterday's match, but obviously. What Trae Young has in his favor situation is that Trae Young had big moments where he showed up and he showed you that he was worthy of praise.
Lights get bigger.
That's right. Lights get bigger, he gets bigger. You're great. Right? Same thing with you. When you DeAndre and you know that Luka's against you and it's a game 7. I know it's not a direct matchup. It ain't like he's defending against Luka. It's not like Luka got the ball in his hand and rely on CP and others to get him the ball. I understand. But at the same time, 5 points, 2 of 5 shooting in the game 7. See, that kind of stuff matters.
I'm not stop looking at you. I'm looking at you.
Because what I'm saying
Let's go down the line. Let's go down the line of Phoenix Suns roster. They all sucked last night. Should none of them get paid in the future? Are all of them horrible players?
You're going to answer. You're going to answer.
No, hold on.
Answer your own question. I'll let you.
No.
Want me to answer it?
Is that what you're getting at?
No.
I'm confused.
No. What I'm saying to you is
there's a reason they didn't max him, Steve. There's a reason they didn't max him. It has nothing to do with playoff performance. He was good in the playoffs last year. There's a reason they didn't max him.
JJ,
because there's questions about his attitude. Oh, there you
one
go.
of the things you don't just talk to players. You actually go talk to the people who cut the checks too, and to see what they're thinking, whether they're right or wrong. Because a lot of times they're wrong. You guys, you can find. I don't like the contract. I think you deserve more. I think you deserve more. Okay. I didn't want you to retire. Remember that? I was like, the worst thing Philadelphia did was let you and Jimmy Butler walk out the door. As far as I'm concerned, make one more run at it. You should have never been in New Orleans. You should have been right there with Jimmy Butler. Philadelphia might have won a chip, in my estimation, if the 2 or 3 were there with Embiid and stuff like that. Hell, Ben Simmons might not have taken it. I mean, for all we know. I mean, look, miracles could happen. What I'm saying is, moments like yesterday matter because people who cut checks look for an excuse not to give it to you. Even if they're wrong, they look for an excuse not to give it to you. And it's important that you don't provide it to them. And when a game 7 arrives, that's an important moment. It dictates a lot. And if you are DeAndre Ayton, they're going to remember that. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's important.
That's all I'm saying.
No, it's a valid point. I basically was agreeing with you without, you point. It's a valid point. I think the thing that does DeAndre Ayton is how he views himself. Prior to Chris Paul going there, he was a 20-point per game scorer. He was the #1 pick. He was like the guy besides Devin Booker. So he's had to, in some ways, and I'm not saying he's done it, but in some ways he's had to sacrifice usage on that team. So he views himself as a max player. And then you get to the playoffs and you go halves without him touching the basketball. And a lot of that has to do with the Dallas defense. Because again, they're not operating in drop coverage. He's not getting those little 15-foot floaters. He's not getting the pocket pass with balls all the way to the rim. And so there's a level of frustration. I remember in Game 6. He didn't hit the ball to the second half.
Well, go get it off the rim, 7-footer.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of bricks that Booker is putting up there. So you were great for a Shaq too. I get the ball off the dunk. I don't want to hear none of that. I'm all about great.
I'm not saying
what was Will Chamberlain? What was Shaquille O'Neal? I don't have him in pick and roll. I'm going to get it off the rim. I'm going to go get it.
And one of the things that buffers Bev's point is that if you listen to Shaquille O'Neal, what does he always say? He's always bringing that up about the business. He's always saying, listen, sure you should be getting the ball. Sure the guard's responsibility to get you the ball, etc., etc. But if you don't, you got to find a way to go and have an impact.
And I guarantee
you got to do it.
And I guarantee if he was to go up there and get 3 offensive rebounds and 3 dunks, I guarantee that post on the 4th time.
But some of that to me is they didn't post him. And he shot 65% this year against mismatches. Anytime they switched, they didn't look. And when they did, he scored.
Okay, hold
Some of that is
that
on
thought.
the
Everyone's trying to find a way, and I'm trying to find a way to get the commercial break real quick. Coming up here on first take, Stephen A. got his wish, headed to Miami. Have some fun. Will we be spending the finals down there as well? We will get into that. And we know Tom Brady's coming back for one.
Final message, Jen. It will be a message that will be referenced for shows upon shows and years upon years, because I tried to warn you both. I gave you all the longest runway imaginable. I told you the Mavs were making the finals 2 months ago. Shortly thereafter, Brew had the audacity, the unmitigated gall, to say the Suns were winning the title. Well, they've gone. And then when the series started, I tried to warn you all. Luka dropped 45 points, and Kevin Wiles had the audacity to put up some fugazi full screen about, maybe actually the Mavs are better when Luka doesn't score. And then Game 2 rolls around, and Luka has one rough defensive quarter, and Chris Broussard all of a sudden gives him the Trae Young treatment. Like, well, if you score 35 but you allow 36, maybe you're actually a net negative. And I have to listen to Antoine Walker, who's not even here yet, but he's going to get some of this too. Talk about how this needs to be a Jalen Brunson-centric offense. You can't win this way. It's like with Harden and Houston. I heard all of it. And then, what happened? Down 3-2. Who stepped up? Who made sure his team won by a combined 60 points in the final 2 games of this series? Who sent the 64-win to the Western Conference champion, defending Western Conference champions home? Luka bleeping Doncic. Just like he did to AC Milan when he was 17, just like he did to Argentina in the Olympics when he was 22, just like he would have done last year to Brew's beloved Clippers if he had any little tiny teensy bit of help. He would have, but he just needed a little bit of help. Finally, Luka got a little bit of help, and all of a sudden, that snarl I've been teaching him since he was 6 years old, he got to break out on these fake tough guys in Phoenix. The only person I feel badly for, Brew, is my dear friend Lil Wayne, who had the best seat in the house to to watch his best friend Chris Paul get baptized repeatedly by Luka Doncic. We'll talk Devin Booker later. We'll talk Chris Paul later. But as embarrassing as it was for them, it's more embarrassing for the right side of the screen right now. But Brew, I don't know how you recover. I gotta tell you, I just don't know.
All right.
Please save us.
All right. First of all, I want to know who Nick paid to go. We're going to Phoenix first before we go to Boston. I just want to know. I'm going to do some investigating after the show to find out how we started with this series and not the other one. That's number one. Secondly, I'm about to say something that in all my years of appearing on First Things First, not with the NBA, not with the NFL, Major League Baseball, college football, heck, not even the USFL highlights that we do. I never had to say this, but I'm going to say it right now. Nick, you were right. You were right. I'm going to give you your props. Congratulations. You were right. I'm going to give you have your day, have your fun. Now, in truth, we all know you weren't as cocksure and vainglorious as you're acting right now. I mean, after game 2, you were all but begging me for a legitimate olive branch. I didn't give you one. I should have gave you a legitimate olive branch. I bet you would have taken it. Secondly, you mentioned your boy Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne offered you. He was ready to make you a rich man, richer than you already are. And you wouldn't take it. You wouldn't take his bet on the Suns because you weren't confident. You were hopeful.
No, because
you were dreaming. You were thinking. You know what? Let's not let the details ruin the good narrative. The bottom line is Luka and the Mavs got it done. I gotta give props to Jason Kidd. Great adjustments, particularly defensively and emotionally. We talked about it. He hit just the right tone, Wilds, when he called out his role players. Spencer Dinwiddie big yesterday. Jalen Brunson big the last 5 games. And when he called out Luka. Because after game 2, he called him out about his defense. Luka got better. I'm going to give them their props. The only saving grace for me is that the only person in the media that likes Luka Doncic more than me is Nick Wright. So I ain't mad to watch Luka. I've called him Luka Legend. New age Larry Bird. So I can live with Luka doing this thing.
All right. That's true. Wilds is the only real Luka hater on the show. Brew likes him. I'm not Wilds, on the other hand,
hater.
Wilds, do you have Suns in 9 now? Is it Suns in 9?
I am just saying.
What do you call that?
I'm not ready to say he's like Larry Bird for getting to the Western Conference Finals. That's it. I'm not ready to say
Larry never got to the Western Conference
for getting to the Western Conference Finals.
Look it up.
Here's what makes today even worse. Even worse, Jenna. Nick wasn't just right about Luka. He was also right about Devin Booker. Club superstar Devin Booker didn't. He hasn't even mentioned it. He's been so right about Luka, he hasn't even mentioned Devin Booker. In
Give it to
can't talk about this game and how great Dallas played, it's a great comeback, without talking about the historical meltdown. It is just an to steal one of Kevin Wilde's favorite phrases, denial is not just a river in Egypt. That's actually not one of Wilde's favorite phrases. It's just saying something maybe somebody will say something. But he is in full-blown denial. He is in full-blown denial. Brew, you have made this point, and you've kind of loosely made it, and I want to give you full credit for it, about the Allen Iverson art, and I just want to throw this right to
I'm impatient. You know, she said later on, I will make the hard decisions. If we're not living up to the Lakers standards, I'll look at everything. But then it didn't ring true. It kind of came off, as you read the whole article, like she was just saying it because she knew that's what the fans wanted to hear. And you're impatient, and we're turning over every rock and stone to find the answer. And the reason I say it didn't ring true is because
don't say that about Leon Rose.
Listen, I'm just telling what I'm saying.
Not happening.
The idea that if the Lakers if the Lakers are willing to attach a draft pick to Russell Westbrook, then they absolutely will be able to trade him. A team will get a pick and cap relief, which for a lot of teams is all they're actually hoping for because they're just running Ponzi schemes on their fans. That no, we're going to get the next great free agent, but we need the cap room, and we're going to draft the next great player. So that has value. The question is, if the Lakers are more interested in trying to win a championship in LeBron's 20th year or some 8th grader that they're scouting right now in Northern California that they might...
The historical meltdown from these Suns. This was a meltdown of epic proportions. And Nick said it, and I hate to say it, he was right. Nick said that's the turning point of this series. He mocked Luka. Luka said it's easy to talk trash when you're up, and then it all went to heck. So, Nick, you didn't get you're actually, in your obnoxiousness, you're actually being humble because you got 2 things right, not one. I can't believe
third
you're saying.
thing. I call you back to Friday, the very end of the show. Your old buddy Nick Rice said an underrated important part of Game 6 was Spencer Dinwiddie all of a sudden found his stroke. And what happened when the game was getting blown open last night? Spencer Dinwiddie, back from the dead. The issue I take with Wild's commentary, he called it a meltdown. Sometimes a meltdown happens, and it's nobody's fault. It's like, oh my God, the cooling rods were miscalibrated. There's nothing we could have done. Sometimes the guy in charge of the whole thing has a few too many vodka sodas before he shows up to work, and the whole world is in disarray. This was a This was a meltdown that was forced. This was a Suns meltdown that was a 2-week, 7-game-long psychological and physical warfare that Luka Doncic imposed upon this team. He got Devin Booker out here mocking him while laying on the ground. He got Chris Paul out here saying Theo Pinson's a good player too. Fun fact, Theo Pinson made as many first-half shots last night as Devin Booker and Chris Paul combined, and he was wearing a suit slightly less good-looking than mine. So, guys, I'm trying to tell you that what we're watching, we are in a historical moment. It is our responsibility, Jenna, as broadcasters, and in Broussard's case, journalists, to accurately depict the moment. We are watching one of the greatest players to ever play have his first truly great postseason. Just embrace it, let it wash over. And the fact that as an added bonus, we're watching one of the greatest sports prognosticators ever prognosticate have one of his greatest moments. That's just a nice thing to go along with it.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First or the Watch These segments from our other shows on FS1.
You just said it, Jenna, with his stats for the last 4 games, the 9 points. They need Chris to be aggressive. And anytime that he's aggressive on the offensive end, they typically win those games. You think about when Devin Booker was out and he had to step up and get 25 and 30. He had the capability of doing that. For some reason in this series, he could not get it done. Whether it was Dallas' defense, whether Dallas forcing him to have to guard and extend more energy than he's used to extending in a series. But it's Chris Paul's fault. He's the leader of the team. And the opportunity and the window is getting smaller for him. This was a perfect season for them when you think about they win 64 games. They got home court advantage. You got game 7 on your home floor, and you lay an egg like they did. You're not going to get too many more opportunities. I know Chris is under contract for the next 3 years, but all 3 of their centers are going to be free agents, and the main center may leave. So they got decisions to make right there. They also got to improve. I like Campaign, and I know he's done a terrific job in improving his game. But they got to lessen Chris minutes. You got to cut down on some of the games that he played. I know Chris is a competitor. He loves to play. But I'm looking at he didn't have fresh legs. That's the only excuse that I can give them is that he didn't have the fresh legs that was necessary to be aggressive to complete this series out. He just, especially when you look at Game 7, they didn't have any energy. Not necessarily just him, but the whole team. But I blame Chris Carr because he's the engine that makes this offense go. Whether he's scoring or assisting, but I think with this team, he needs to be more of a dominant offensive player, and he wasn't able to get that done with 35 points in only 4 games.
Listen, I understand a lot of this is going to fall into his fault because this might be his last best chance. But that's not where I'm going to put it. Now, maybe it's because I'm a little biased, because Chris Paul and I have a lot of things, very unique things in common. We're both close personal friends with Lil Wayne. We're both a shade under 6'1". We're both exactly 37 years old. And Brew, while being a shade under 6'1", is a above average height for an American male. It's tiny for an NBA player. And while being 37 years old is incredibly young to be America's most beloved sportscaster, it's incredibly old to be a starting point guard in the NBA playoffs. So Chris Paul has reasons for his lack of success. You know who doesn't? Devin Booker. Devin Booker's mouth tried to cash a check that his play couldn't back up. And Devin Booker, keying and laughing with CP3 after Game 2 press conference, basketball gods looked at that and said, remarkable. And then Devin Booker, when he did a flop into a drawing a flagrant, into a turning like he's in a bad movie looking at the camera and saying, Luke, especially with a little wink, that moment right there, if it were a bad VH1 behind the music, that's where the music would change, we would say, and it all changed from there. Because from that moment forward, a guy who was whining about, what does it take to get in the MVP conversation these days? A guy who finished 4th in MVP voting. The young, best player in his athletic prime, alleged superstar, whose Suns fans were whining to me that he didn't get into Club Superstar, but our admissions policy has never been better. Here's what he did the final 7 quarters of the series with, the 64-win Suns season on the line. He had 22 points on 22%, didn't hit a single three, and had 11 turnovers. So, yeah, we can blame them both, considering the fact that Luka had more points, rebounds, assists than Devin Booker and Chris Paul combined over the final 2 games. But CP3 Brew has some excuses that are explanations. He's old and small. Devin Booker's got none of them. And Devin Booker was really feeling himself. Like Lucas said, everyone's chatting when they're winning, when they're ahead. They were never ahead the final 2 games, so Devin Booker ain't got nothing to say. This one got to wear this.
Look, there's no doubt that Booker has a sizable chunk of the blame, Nick. And yesterday, statistically, he was even worse than Chris was. They both were. I think overall this is the war on Chris Paul because he had 5 straight bad games. Now, we've seen Chris have bad moments in the playoffs. Remember back in 2014, Game 5, Oklahoma City, 2 turnovers, last 14 seconds, fouls, Westbrook on the 3, they lose. Game 7 against Utah, his last year with the Clippers. We've seen bad moments, bad games from him in the playoffs, but never a bad stretch or series like he had this time, unless he was injured. And so I almost was expecting some injury news to come out after the game. And it didn't, maybe it will later, but Chris, he just has one good game, not great game, good game in the last 5. Maybe they don't even get to a game 7. And Twan was right. Like, he's the leader of the team. He's their future Hall of Famer. He's the guy that turned the franchise around. And when the team goes out there and sees that he's kind of lifeless, that he's out of energy, that he's, doesn't have the spirit, that hits everybody. And I think that's what happened yesterday. And look, Twan mentioned the fresh legs or the lack thereof, Wilds. I think we saw in this series why only 2 small players in history, Steph Curry and Isaiah Thomas with Detroit, and you want to throw Gus Williams with Seattle 79 if he was the leader of that same mate.
I do.
But only a handful or a couple of guys, right, okay, 3 guys then, have led teams to championships. And it is because a small player can get worn down. Whether it's over the course of the 82 and in the playoffs, whatever it is, he can get worn down. And Chris, I think, was mentally frustrated and physically worn down by Luka's size to the point where all-time great point guard defender, Wiles, and Jalen Brunson, who's his size, was taking him down low and posting him by the end of the series. So this is on Chris Paul more than me, Wiles.
Game 6 was on Thursday. All Friday, all Saturday, basically all Sunday to play. So I just don't buy the worn down or he didn't have enough rest. Here's the thing, Nick. There's a meme, it might be an Onion article. It says, the worst person you know made a good point. It kind of jokes around about being in a tough spot if that happens. I feel the opposite. The person that I want to succeed the most, that I want to give credit for, that I want to win a championship, just kind of blew it. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like last year when the Suns went to the finals, remember Chris had his whole family out there? It was just getting to the finals. He's like, oh, and he's thanking Billy Crystal, like during his Clippers tenure. It was just such a nice moment. And I know Chris just said, like, we'll be back next year. This, they always say it's your best chance. Like, this was your best chance. You set the franchise record in Phoenix. Yeah. DeAndre Ayton's there. He might not be there. Devin Booker's ascended. Mario Williams is the coach of the year. You went out on 1,300 games you've ever played. The plus-minus was minus 39. It's the worst of your career. Chris Paul took 4 free throws in the last 5 games. So I'm just in a tough spot. There's nothing I want more than Chris Paul to be even increase his legacy. And now I'm wearing that his legacy's going in reverse. I know you say legacies can't go in reverse, but if they were,
No, not at this age.
Chris
It's
Paul
not
seems to
going
be applying for it.
No. It's not. It's not going in reverse. And I know exactly what you mean about the meme. The worst person you know just made a great point. It's exactly how I feel. The once a month Wild says something I'm like, damn, had to call it that. I hate when that happens. But I said it earlier. The basketball gods did not smile upon what Devin Booker said. Let's not act like Chris Paul wasn't one of those people kikiing alongside with Devin after Game 2. And let's not act like Chris Paul after Game 1 didn't compare Luka Doncic to Theo Pinson. The Suns might have been better off with Theo Pinson. He could switch teams, get him a few minutes. I'll tell you this much, Theo Pinson made as many first-half shots as Chris Paul and Devin Booker combined in a Game 7. That ain't great, and they all got to wear it.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First or the Watch.
All right, Chris Paul at 10, Devin Booker 11. Now start with you here. What went wrong for the Suns?
That's the first thing. Props to the Dallas Mavericks. I sincerely, I gotta apologize. I didn't see this. I knew Luka. I had no idea Spencer Dinwiddie would play like that. I thought he was this thing, but to be captain of my Luka to have 6 points and the Phoenix Suns in the first half, for them to be up as many as 46 in a Game 7. It was the largest halftime deficit in the history of a Game 7. It was one of the largest deficits, the 46-point deficit. It was a complete catastrophe on the part of the Phoenix Suns. It don't get much worse than what's yesterday. DeAndre Ayton, you're maxed out. That's going to be compromised. Devin Booker, still a star. Mad respect for you in the whole.
Surprised? Jenna, how can I be surprised when after Game 5 I told you guys exactly what would happen and it came to pass? Nick offers me one of his endless streams of olive branches and I firmly rejected it, firmly, because I believed. I knew the defense was tenacious. Jason Tatum is a monster. I knew it all. But you know what, America? I'm not going to be like Nick. I'm not going to sit up here and gloat. I'm not going to say, Nick, I told you that just because Giannis is the best player in the series doesn't mean they're going to win the series. I'm not going to say, Nick, I told you that the Bucks could not overcome the loss of Chris Middleton. Nick, I'm not gonna say, Nick, I told you that the basketball gods were punishing the Bucks for tanking the last game of the season to avoid Brooklyn.
That's a good one.
So, and they lost home court advantage, and yesterday it came back to bite them. Because I don't believe in basketball gods. Nick, I'm not gonna sit up here and say what you can do with your olive branches. I'm not even going to say, Nick Wright, there is absolutely, positively no such thing as Chris's curse. The Creole curse.
Curse of the British.
Broussard's curse. There's only Nick's nonsense. All right, but I'm not going to say any of that. Because as Wiles teaches us, I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be kind. All I'm going to say, Nick, is this. It's the same thing I said 2 weeks ago before this series started. I said it boldly. I said it confidently. I said it with very white face in my voice, just engorged. Celtics in 7. Celtics in 7.
You know what?
I'm done.
Brew,
and so are your Bucks.
There's only There's only one thing you said there that I could take any issue with. Because you're right, you nailed it. You didn't waver. And the series also, I thought, was going the exact way I thought it would until the fourth quarter of Game 6. Which was, Giannis would carry them to 2 or 3 wins, the others would help out for one of them, and the Bucks would be able to win this series in 6 or 7 games. And then in the fourth quarter of Game 6, something very important happened. Newly minted superstar Jason Tatum had his first true super-duper star moment of his career. Jason Tatum, in the first game of these playoffs, hit a buzzer-beating layup. Jason Tatum in the third game of these playoffs, when Brooklyn was trying to get back into the series down 2-0, had 39 points and greatly outplayed Kevin Durant. And Jason Tatum, facing elimination on the road against the best player alive, went toe-to-toe, shot for shot with him, and beat him. And then yesterday was Giannis was not great yesterday, but he'd been so great throughout the rest of the series. For me, it's hard to really blame him. Grant Williams hits double the threes the Bucks as a whole hit. So yesterday's, to me, was not the story. The story was Game 6. It was the Bucks' opportunity, and Jason Tatum took it from him. Wild. I do have a small issue with Bruce saying the curse of Broussard does not exist when both of his finals picks did not even make the conference finals. That strikes me as a little curious. However, in general,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, well, you're like a bad Tinder dater. You just keep switching profiles like to see which one is hot right now. However, Brew, you are correct. The curse of Broussard is not what we should be talking about. We should be talking about the Wild's kiss. Because Wild's ability to absolutely destroy a team that he had picked against by then picking is unprecedented. Wilds was all in on the Grizzlies, and then after a bad quarter, he goes to the Timberwolves, and they immediately forget the rules of basketball and blow 3 different 15-plus point fourth quarter, second half leads. Wilds on Friday, Brew, guaranteed a 10-year, not 10 days, not 10 months, a 10-year period of the Celtics' inability to get past Giannis, and they immediately won back-to-back games to eliminate Giannis. I've never seen anything like it. So as much as I would like this to be about me being kind of wrong, Wilds, it's like, you know what the thing I'm afraid of the rest of the show, Wilds? That you might pick the Mavs to beat the Warriors. For the love of God, please don't. I beg of you. Because the Wild's kiss of death is terrifying.
It's not a kiss of death. Everybody knew I was on the Celtics ever since New Year's. Me and Dusty picked the New Year's Celtics graphic, and then I had a brief momentary lapse of frustration. Call it an entanglement, if you will, where I didn't believe in the Celtics. And then guess what? I came right back on. If that is a crime of being committed to something, having a brief time of not being committed and then being recommitted, well, you know what? It's me and Tom Brady. Lock me up and throw away the key. Guilty as charged. Me and the GOAT. Guilty. Oh, I'm retired, but now I'm back. That's okay. Guilty as charged, Jenna. Throw me to Attica. You guys can visit me. Anyways, Broussard, here's my biggest takeaway from the Bucks that I haven't heard yet. The strangest thing about the Bucks' game plan for the last 2 years is them running counter to all of the rest of the NBA. It's like, you know what we're going to do? You shoot threes. That's the plan, and it's worked. And I'm always like, wow, it's like cryptocurrency. I'm like, wow, it doesn't really make any sense to me, but I guess it works. They're getting rich off of it. It seems to work. And it all finally came crashing down. Grant Williams took 18 threes and carried the Celtics past the Bucks. So I'm putting a little bit of this on the Bucks strategy because Giannis did enough, and I know Middleton wasn't there. But it feels like that Bucks strategy finally came crashing back to earth of like, you know what? Maybe it's not a good idea to let the other team bomb threes at will. Do you have any issue with the Bucks let them bomb threes strategy?
Yeah, I mean, it's the old school strategy. That's how the NBA used to be played. Pack in the paint, don't let anybody get to the rim, and give them the three. Now, obviously, they're trying to contest as best they can, but they know we're only going to be able to contest so many. And you saw how many of those shots were wide open. How many did Grant Williams miss in the first half? How many did Derek White miss? So you're right, they're going to have to rethink that strategy. Look, they tried to beat him with size yesterday. At one point, they even went with Giannis Lopez and Bobby Portis, and they almost doubled them in points in the paint. But the three-point ball, Wilds, they were outscored by 54 points on the three-point line. I think that's an all-time record in the playoffs. You can't win in today's NBA like that.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.
Well, I guess the 10% of the blame because he's a superstar, you have to take some accountability. The job didn't get done. But I don't really know what else you could ask of him because he came 34, 15, and 7. He's the first player to have 200 points, 100 rebounds, 50 assists.
First things first, we got Antoine Walker back with us. We're talking Mavs Suns, Twan, and a near perfect Game 7 from Luka Doncic. Luka, 27 in the first half. Phoenix Suns, also 27 in the first half. As a team, hey, wait a minute, that can't be right. Oh, but it was. Everything was right for the Mavericks. 35 and 10 from Luka. Spencer Dinwiddie gave you 30 off the bench. No drama in this one. Total domination by Dallas. They are moving on. Nick, listen, I feel like I know the answer to this, but enlighten us. Is Luka already an all-time great playoff performer?
Yes! He was 2 weeks ago, and these don'ts argued with me. Hopefully, now that they have more information, as Drew likes to say, with new information, I can change my opinion. And now you have even more information, and he's proving it even more. Every time Luka does something, one of 3 days, it's like, wow. The first guy to do that since LeBron James, Michael Jordan, or Wilt Chamberlain. Seems like good company. Has anyone in NBA history averaged for their career in the playoffs 30, 6, and 6? No, except Luka, who's 33, 9, and 9. And the sample size keeps growing. The competition keeps getting better, and somehow his performances keep getting better. So, let's just go to the same here. All-time playoff points per game leaders. How does Luka Doncic look? Oh, that's good company. He's in second. That's actually, it's 32.7, I think, at this point. But it's because he didn't, hurt him last night. They blew him out by so much that he didn't get to play the full second half. Or else he probably would have dropped a 50-burger, but he's still second all time. All right, what about assists? How is Luka Doncic as a passer? Oh, top 12 all time. Same with Chris Paul. Seems like good company. What about shooting the basketball? We're in a shooting league. How does he stack up to the all-time greatest playoff shooter? Oh, better than Dame, slightly worse than Steph. Seems good. Nick, 23 games does not make us great. Okay, let's just compare it to your guy's GOAT. A guy who I believe is one of the 3 greatest players ever. You guys think he's the greatest player ever? Michael Jordan. Through 23 career games. He was already called Jesus in an NBA uniform. Oh my goodness gracious. Jordan has addicted points. Luka has rebounds, assists. By the way, Michael at this point had not been to a conference finals, was in his 5th year, and was 26 years old. Luka's been to a conference finals, this is his 4th year, and is 23 years old. Also, by the way, Luka Doncic just became the only guy had not been to a conference finals, was in his 5th year, and was 26 years old. Luka's been to a conference finals, this is his 4th year, and is 23 years old. Also, by the way, Luka Doncic just became the only guy not named LeBron James to lead both teams in a playoff series in points, rebounds, assists, and steals, which is fun, because I had to listen for 36 hours about how he might be the worst defensive player ever. So, yes, he's already an all-time great. 0 playoff games with All-Star at 9. What more do you want from him?
Nick, I'm gonna give you credit in the sense that you've been on Luka's bandwagon all season long, so I can't take that away from him. And the man has shown up in meaningful games. In game 6 and 7, he played terrific. But as I said before you start anointing him the king of playoff basketball, let's see if he can get to the final. Let's see if he can get an NBA championship. It's still early. He's done a terrific job of taking his group and beating the #1 team in the Western Conference. So I want to give you credit for that. It's been terrific. But before that, I also told you prior to that he needed help to be able to get over this hump. And specifically, Jalen Brunson were terrific. They helped him out. Jalen Brunson's been great the last 4 games. So he's finally got some help. It's not him by himself. aggressive. And then on top of that, let's give a lot of credit to Jason Kidd and what he's been able to do, and hiding Luka defensively, and making sure the mistakes he makes defensively does not hurt them. So on top of that, so when you name all those great players, some of those great players you name are some of the better two-way players we had in this league, and Luka's not there yet. But I got to give you credit. You've been on this guy's bandwagon all season long. He's been terrific. He stepped up to the plate right now. We can see if he can carry this on against the Golden State Warriors, a veteran team that's been there before, and see if we can get to the finals. But I'm not ready to say he's just Luka's the legend right now. I'm not ready to do that. Too many. He has to have enough playoff games for that. He has to advance enough for that.
Right. Nick, in the words of Kevin Durant, it's too soon, bro. That's it. It's too soon. Now, I agree with you. I think Luka will be an all-time great. And yes, it was. After 23 games, he had won, a couple of playoff series, if that. I would not have called him an all-time great playoff performer just yet. Let's go to LeBron. LeBron, after he scored 48 points in 2007, remember in Game 5 against Detroit, at Detroit, 25 straight. He had played 28. That was his 28th playoff game. He beat a former championship team. And if you had said at that point, his numbers obviously were through the roof. If you had said at that point, he's already an all-time great playoff performer. And then Boston 2010 comes. And then Dallas 2011 comes. And you're like, oh, I jumped the gun on that. Now, since then, LeBron has, redeemed himself and become an all-time playoff great. But it was too early in 07 to say that. So, Luka's won 2 playoff series. We giving him the props because he's been to the conference finals. Damian Lillard saying, I'm an all-time great dude. And the dude you always kill, Nikola Jokic, has been to a conference finals. 1 more playoff series than Luka. And his numbers are through the roof as well. So, Miles, I would argue that you have to win a championship. You have to win a championship to be considered an all-time playoff great. Not an all-time great, all-time playoff great. You got to win the champions. I mean, I'd say that's the case, Pops.
Here's the issue, Broussard, and there's nothing I like more in this world than delicious cappuccinos and making fun of Nick Wright. But he's right about this. In the world of takes, everyone who's on TV, everyone who writes, can walk through the landscape of facts. We all see the facts, we're like, oh, that's an interesting fact, that's an interesting fact. And Nick Wright said, that's an interesting fact, and no one's talking about it. And he picked it up, and he presented to us. I was like, I don't know if that means anything. It's when you said that Luka is a champion, he was the EuroLeague MVP and the Finals MVP with Real Madrid. I was like, I don't care. I don't think that matters. Until last night, when we saw, wow, it looks like a bunch of these guys have never been in a high-pressure situation, have never been in a Game 7, and one guy is not worried at all, has been there, has been through the fire, and is not bothered by it. I wish I didn't have to say this, but you were right. You noted that, and I think all of American media discards that championship like it's nothing. But we saw it last night. That's why in a Game 7, Luka sat the 4th quarter. It's an outrageous, unbelievable statistic.
Of course.
And I didn't believe you at first, but I'm starting to come your way.
What? Listen, he's faced elimination 4 times in his NBA playoff career. What he has done in those 4 games: 38, 9, and 9, 46, 7, and 14, 33, 11, and 8, and then 35, 10, and 4. And you might say, oh, the last couple games didn't score quite as much because they won by a combined 60 points and he didn't have to play late in the game. Wild says, I knew it once I saw what he did in Madrid. I knew it when he was 8 years old and he couldn't eat dinner if he didn't make 25 straight threes and he was doing it then. I said, my son's got that stuff. You guys, and this idea grew that you are trying to act like no, it's too early.
I don't know. Why? Oh, not gonna be one more. I don't know. I don't know.
and Mavericks happen. Skip the old saying, you picked the wrong day to have a bad day at the office. If they pick the worst day, basketball. And the Mavericks put it all together. And we kind of saw this in Game 6 where they kind of got it going, and Luka got someone to come along with it. But when you get Luka going for 27, and you only score 27 as a team, and then you get Dinwiddie gives you 21 in the first half, Jalen Brunson gives you 22 in the second half, that's an avalanche that you can't overcome. When your three big guns, they all struggled in the first half. This game was over in the first half. You know when you're down, but you're not coming back from no 30-point down in a situation like that. But this was all about Luka. Luka has been special. He's been the best player. There are not very many times that he's gone into a series and he is not the best player in that series. And if you look at what he's done, Skip, in his very brief career, in elimination games, against two of the great defenders of all time, Kawhi and PG, he went 38-99, he went 46-7-14. In Game 6 against Mikal Bridges, who was in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, he went 33-11-8, also Jay Crowder. Yesterday, 35-10-4 in 3 quarters. He was going to have another. In elimination games, he's averaging 39, basically 39 and a half points per game.
Well, this is the first year he's won a playoff series.
But you think about it, Skip. Had he had someone to come along with him in those situations, and he had maybe a Jalen Brunson giving him this opportunity, who knows what would have happened. But Skip, Luka was the best player this series. And if you notice, things change with everybody. Luka said after that game 5, he said, yeah, everybody got a lot to talk about. And then when you win it, okay, Jason Kidd has done an unbelievable job. If that's not to take anything with Rick Carlisle, but maybe they just needed a different voice. Because what they were able to do to Chris Paul, Skip, we haven't seen anybody do this to Chris Paul. Every time Luka got him in the pick and roll, he attacked it. Skip, Jalen Brunson might be shorter than Chris Paul. He attacked it. They picked him up 94 feet. The Pelicans let us own to something. Let's try to pick him up 94 feet. Let's try to weigh him down. Bullock picked him up 94 feet. Benny Smith picked him up 94 feet. So now, Skip, he doesn't get a chance to rest. We talked about it, Skip. We haven't seen Chris Paul play back-to-back bad games. First 2 games, he was sensational. He played bad game 3. Skip, now we ain't seen him now. We know he gonna bounce back. Played bad game 4. Well, you know, hey, Chris Paul ain't gonna play back-to-back 3 games in a row. Played bad. Ain't no skill. There's no possible way Chris Paul is gonna put together 4 bad games. Okay, he got 2 days off in between because all these games were back-to-back, every other day. Skip, 5 bad games, they wore him down. But this was all about Luka. Luka was the best player in the series, Skip. He led in everything except block shot. Points, rebounds, 3 assists, steals. He did it all. He almost had a LeBron series. Skip, he was the best player on the court. And he proved it throughout the series. Look, I get it. Yeah, the Phoenix picked the wrong day to have a bad game. Game 7, elimination game on your cold court. But man, look here. I don't know had they even played even better. If Luka's playing like this, and he gets someone to go along with it, because he was, in the first half, he only missed 3 shots. Luka, you get what? Don't be surprised you see it playing in the final.
Really? You picking down?
Y'all worry about who I pick. We ain't got a pick just yet. But if we gonna get some dew on it, you can't. You ain't a Warrior fan. They beat your team. But I love a Luka.
We'll get there when we get there. We will cross that burning bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, Luka said that would have. We haven't seen Chris Paul play back-to-back bad games. First 2
won a playoff series.
But you think about it, Skip. And he had maybe a Jalen Brunson giving him this opportunity. Who knows what would have happened? But Skip, Luka was the best player in this series. And if you notice, things change with everybody. Luka said after that game 5, Skip, he said, yeah, everybody got a lot to talk about when you win it. Okay, Jason Kidd has done an unbelievable job. That's not to take anything away from Rick Carlisle, but maybe they just needed a different voice. Because what they were able to do to Chris Paul, Skip, we haven't seen anybody do this to Chris Paul. Every time Luka got him in the room, he attacked him. Like he was a Chris Paul. He attacked him. They picked him up 94 feet. The Pelicans fell on or something. Let's try to pick him up 94 feet. Let's try to win him down. Hold on. Picked him up 94 feet. Benny Smith picked him up 94 feet. Now he doesn't get a chance to rest. We talked about this. We haven't seen Chris Paul play back-to-back bad games. First two games, he was insane. He played bad game 3. He bounce back. Played bad game 4. Well, you know ain't Chris Paul ain't gonna play back-to-back 3 games in a row. You know, don't possible Chris Paul is gonna put together 4 bad games. He got 4 days off in between because all these games were back-to-back, every other day. Luka was the best player in the series. He led in everything except block shot. Points, rebounds, threes, assists, steals. He did it all. He almost had a LeBron series. Skip, he's the best. He was the best player on the court. And he proved it throughout the series. Look, I get it. Yeah, just the really pick the wrong thing to have a bad game. Game 7 in the game. You call for it. But man, I don't know how they even put it in. Luka put it like this. And he gets someone to go up on the limit. Because if he was what? In the first half, he only missed like 3 shots. Luka, get what? Don't be surprised you see it playing in the final.
Really? You take it down?
Don't worry about what big we got big shit. But if we gonna get some new on it, you the Warrior fan, because you make each other. Well, I love it.
Okay. My turn. This NBA playoff season has been a series of I've never seen that, and I've never seen that, and I've definitely never seen that last night, because I've never seen that. I would have bet you 1,000 cases of doom that wouldn't have happened. If you give me, I didn't know what the final score ended up, but if you give me Phoenix plus 30, I would bet 1,000,000 cases on that. And it wouldn't have worked, because that happened. And I want to remind everybody, before I proceed, those same Phoenix Suns won the West by 8 games. Those same Phoenix Suns, that was over Memphis, those same Phoenix Suns were 11 games better than Miami, which won the East. Think about that. They destroyed the field during the regular season. You mentioned Mikal Bridges, he was the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. I thought Devin Booker deserved better in the MVP voting, but it was because of Chris Paul's magical late career year that he undercut whatever Devin Booker's momentum was in the MVP race. And I have never seen anything like the late career renaissance that I started seeing from Chris Paul a year ago against my Clippers at that point in a Game 6 at what was then Staples Center. Chris Paul scored 41 points in that game, including 27 on basically the last quarter and a fourth of the quarter. 27 points. I've never seen such shooting, especially from the point God who would become the 2 God. And then we saw a Game 6 this year back in his old stomping grounds in New Orleans, in which he made, excuse me, I'm getting choked up, all 14 of his shots. That's impossible. He was about to be 37 and he went 14 of 14 and scored 33 points. And even in Game 2, that put them up 2-0 in this series, he scored 28 points and he looked like the 2 guy. He looked like he was invincible, and they looked invincible. And that night, that game ended with the spilling over sold-out Phoenix crowd, Footprint Arena, chanting, Suns in 4, Suns in 4. And I'm like, maybe, maybe. And I think you were there too. Like, I don't know.
We're going to go back home now.
All right, so they go back home. And they win, but they don't win quite as impressively as Phoenix won in Phoenix. I'm going to remind everybody that in the 3 previous
previous games to last night in Phoenix. Phoenix won by an average of 19 points. Get that through your heads out there in TV land. 19 points a game. They won by the first 3 games. What was this? What happened? Luka, going into last night in this series, had shot 30% from the three-point line. Is that good? Oh, yeah, Shannon. That was 16 of 54. That's a lot of missed threes. 30% he was shooting, coming off a very poor shooting game. They actually won back in Dallas in spite of his 11 of 26 from the floor. Is that good? No. And 2 of 8 from 3? No. And 9 of 14 from the free line? No. And he comes right out, and he makes, let's just show these. I'm going to show the first 3 shots, because this was the whole game right here. The game is about to be over right here, believe it or not. Because on his first one, he gets the switch onto Ayton, and he takes it into the lane. He says, I'm going to toy with you, and I'm just going to step back and fall away at the free throw line and swish it.
Nothing but that.
Nothing but that. And then he gets the switch onto, guess who, the 7-footer, and he says, I got this. I'll step back here in the corner, and there's a 3. And then he says, oh, I got Ayton again. Although that just came off and get him. And another step back 3, and all of a sudden it's 8-3, and you thought, okay. Because I'm thinking, well, that's not his history, so history would say he's not going to keep that up. He wound up making 6 of 11 threes, which by his standards was fire. It felt like those first 3 shots just did Phoenix in. And all of a sudden, I tweeted, I can't recognize the Phoenix Suns because they were without urgency, they were without energy, and the point guard looked like he was shot. He wouldn't take a shot because it looked like after he turned 37. Remember what happened? He turned 37, and all of a sudden he plays 5 straight games, and in those last 5 he averaged 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists with 4 turnovers a game.
The problem was somebody told him he was 37.
Well, did he hit home?
If no one ever actually told you your age, how old would you be?
I don't know.
Like they told Chris Paul, you're 37. He's like, well, damn, I ain't supposed to be playing like this. And he hadn't played the same since.
He hasn't, and yet it's not that he was shooting poorly. He just wasn't shooting. Because, look, over those 5 games, he shot 18 of 36. Well, that's half. That's 50%. The problem was his shots per game fell all the way up to only 7 shots per game.
Right.
From 3 over the last 5 games, he was 8 of 16. Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Except that he generated to only 3 3-point attempts per game.
Right.
And I want to drive home the fact that last night, it wasn't until the 4th quarter when Chris Paul was left in a blowout game, which they were trailing by 40-odd points, that he actually made all 3 of his shots in the 4th quarter when the game was utterly, completely, hopelessly out of hand.
Yes.
Okay? And he makes 3 and scores 7 of his 9 points in the 4th quarter. What if Monty had just said that's enough and kept him out? Because Dallas sat all of its starters, starting with Luka, through the whole 4th, only Brunson played.
Right.
Okay? So Chris, against backups, scored 7 of his 9 points in the 4th quarter. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Skip, he was bad. The last 5 games, you could hardly recognize him. Now, they were talking about, you start hearing things that he had a quad injury going on. Skip, I don't want to hear that. I really don't. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have a quad injury going on.
Okay, let me say that all my Phoenix sources that I have, nobody heard a peep about any quad injury, and I'm pretty good with my eye test. Dave McMenamin of ESPN reported sources told him there's a quad injury, but I'm pretty good with my eye test. So are you.
Yeah.
Did you see any indication? I couldn't see it. I'm sorry, and nobody said he was never listed on the injury report. Obviously, I can't fathom that. It feels excuse-ridden to me.
That's what it seems like to me, Skip. But you mentioned Luka is not a great 3-point shooter. But you know, Skip, if that 3 ball is falling, with his ability to get to the rim, you at his mercy. There's nothing you can do because there's nobody. We've seen Kawhi, we've seen Paul George, we've seen some elite defenders that cannot keep this man from getting where he wants to get. So if that 3 ball starts to fall,
I agree.
It's over for you.
And it looked like the Suns agreed with you. It looked like he made his first 3, and they were looking at each other like,
Well, we're done.
Yeah.
We got no choice.
They didn't touch nothing but that. So they hit no rim, and he started early. He started looking around. He started smiling. He started laughing at the crowd. He said something the other night. I think it was Friday night. He said, "Talk now." He hit a shot, and they called, and Phoenix called a timeout. And he looked at Devin Booker. "Talk now."
And listen, I got to tell you, I'm old school about this. He flat out laughs at his opponents. He's laughing up the floor. Shannon Sharp, back in the day, would not have loved that.
No, you got
the point is, the thing I cannot take away from Luka Doncic is he flat out backs it up.
Yes.
And when he backs it up in the lane, mano a mano, it's hard to argue with it because the losing team has to say, well, we can't fight back because you're beating us on the scoreboard and in the lane.
But Skip, if I put my best defender, let's just say I'm playing football and you got a receiver and I got my best corner and he's torching my best corner, what can I do as a defensive coordinator? I would look at the head coach and say, that's my best guy. That's the guy that was in defensive player of the year contention. That's Mikal Bridges. He's finished second to Marcus Smart. And he's eating him up like he's a kid, like he's just a role player, like he's at the back of the bench. Jay Crowder, it doesn't matter. DeAndre Ayton, Booker, it did not matter who they put on him. Skip, I mean, so what are you supposed to do?
Here's what I admired the most about last night. Luka is finally finding the balance between me and them, me and them.
Yes.
It's a hard balance
It
to
is.
find. It takes all the great ones. It took Jordan a long time to figure out how to get them involved because you can't do it 1-on-5 every game, all game long.
Right.
So look what he did last night. He managed to get Jalen Brunson 19 shots, which is what Luka took. They each took 19 shots, and Brunson gave you 24. And he managed to get Dinwiddie 15 shots. And Dinwiddie goes crazy and makes 5 of 7 threes and gives you 30 points, along with Luka's 35. When you got those three like that, you're going to get shot out of your own place. And they did. Okay, let's look back now at what happened. A flashpoint moment. 8:26 was left in the third quarter. And all of a sudden, Monty Williams yanks DeAndre Ayton. And according to people that I talked to, they got into it on the sidelines so badly that they had to be restrained by other players on the bench and pulled back apart. And I talked to our friend Lil Wayne, who was courtside on the far side, and he said it looked to him, or I don't think you could hear it, but he's probably reading lips. It looked like Monty said something to Ayton about, "You freaking quit on us." And I do not doubt that for 1 second, because the problem with DeAndre Ayton, whose contract is still up for grabs,
Probably still season that they didn't give him the max
that is
contract.
correct. But his motor runs low. It does not ever run hot. In a game 7, you need your big man to impose his will from the start. Share of blame, because Monty got into it with him, and then when Monty was asked about it after the game, period in the comment. I'm not going to talk about that. So,
but I did sit his ass for the rest of the game, and I chose to do that.
He sat him the whole rest of the game. Not that it was a game at that point, but he didn't even let him see the light of play.
Skip, I mean, he had 5 shots. What am I supposed to? First of all, he should be insulted. That they said, you know what, we're gonna let the white power play you head up. He should be insulted. He should be putting up Giannis type numbers against this cat.
4 rebounds, way to go.
Come on, man. Skip, you 7 foot tall, and you want them to max you out. Now, bro, come on, DA. And that was the thing, Skip. You can't have all you get. It's like Books, CP3, and DA. Like, all of them went on vacation at once. And somebody got to stay and man the office. Skip, all the senior execs can't go on vacation at one time. I mean, Mikal Bridges 3 of 11, 2 of 9 for Jay Crowder, 2 of 5, 3 of 14 Books, 4 of 8. I mean, come on.
Okay, and I'm glad you brought up Devin Booker, because I have tried my darndest to back him on this show, to edge him into superstar. No. And he just can't qualify, because this is completely unacceptable, because in the end, he's the shooter, he's the scorer. Yeah. They're going to go as he goes as far as making 3 balls, not these great 3 balls, but making jump shots.
Yes.
And he goes 3 of 14 and 0 of 4 from 3 in a game 7 in your house. It's just not acceptable. And Chris was awful, and he was awful, and Ayton, you could argue, is even worse. But the point is, Devin Booker talked before the game about we're locked in, blah, blah, blah. Well, you got to show
You
them.
got to play.
You just got to go play.
We locked in. So I guess the other team like, oh my God, we ain't got no chance. They're locked in. Luka came out. They came out. Look, the one thing I have to say about this, Skip, even when they lost the first 2 games, they came out, we going home now. So let's just see what we got. And he got them to play. I don't know how he did it, but this is the same team that barely played any defense the last 3-4 years.
I agree.
And he got them to lock in.
Thank you for bringing that up. I tweeted last night that the real MVP of the Dallas Mavericks is Jason Kidd. Because I'm going to remind you, Lucas showed up completely out of shape to start the season.
Right.
You did not like it. No. They struggled to 17 and 18 on January the 1st. Think about that. As the the calendar turned over, they were 17 and 18. And all of a sudden, Jason Kidd's message started to get through.
Right.
We have to have a new defensive backbone. And he started doing for the Mavericks what Ime Udoka did for the Celtics. Gave them some character, some toughness, some backbone.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they started to play, I'm just going to say this, playoff caliber defense that they've never played before. And yet, remember, after game 2, the big story was, all we do is hunt Luka. Well, they did, but I got to give Luka credit here, too. He finally figured out how to, as Jason Kidd said last night, participate on defense. When he participates, I was watching it closely. A lot of times last night, he would just play kind of weird one-man zone where he would just fade around, drop into the middle. But he was trying to stay out of harm's way, where on the perimeter, they would just pick him off and get him to whoever they want on Booker, and then Booker would cook it.
And David Kidd was basically saying, Luka, just don't let them beat you with the initial move.
Yeah.
If they don't beat you with the initial move, if they got to go to a second move, we got help coming.
You got it.
Remember in 2011, the Mavericks won a defensive-based team. You look at Stevens, you look at Marion, you look at they had Tyson Chandler. So now you put Reggie Bullock, now you put Finney Smith. Now they're in the starting lineup. Yeah, they can shoot the ball, but they can also defend. Because you're going to need defender skill to help with Luka. Because Luka, like you said, they're going to hunt Luka. The Lakers, the past 2 years, we want Luka. We looking for Luka. Luka said, you know what? Since everybody hunt me, damn it, I'm going to get me a gun. I'm going to start hunting you too. So now Luka, he'll hunt LeBron. He'll hunt Giannis. He'll hunt Chris Paul. He'll hunt anybody. Like, oh, y'all want to hunt me? But, you know, I get an opportunity to get the ball also. And when he's playing like this, like you said, it's a fine line. Because sometimes he gets too ball-dominant central, and then everybody else just stand around there. Okay, do your thing, Luka. But last night, if you let them play like this, Luka gives you 27, and then when he gives you 21, and then the second half, you got Brunson goes and gives you 22. Somebody will catch you and beat this team.
Well, and here's what impressed me the most. Reggie Bullock can shoot the lights out on any given night.
Right.
He was 1 of 4 from 3. We know that Finney Smith can shoot every light out in the building, especially at home, and he was 1 of 3.
Right.
And we know that Cleveland can just go crazy from shooting corner threes like P.J. Tucker. He took 1 and made it, but only 1. So those guys, they did no damage. That's got to be pretty scary to the Golden State Warriors that they did that to Phoenix without those 3 going along for the ride.
They kind of mirror me because if you the Warriors.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the way they play, Skip, they play 3 guards. They play Luka. Finney Smith is really a guard. They list him as a forward, but he's really a guard. Bullock. And you got Brooke Baseball, they play 4. Because look at Jalen Brunson. So now all they want to do is get up and down the court too, just like Golden State. So who's going to take and make 3? Guess what it's going to come down to? Because Luka's getting in the lane. I don't care who they put on it. You better keep Draymond out of foul trouble. I'm thinking they're going to probably start Draymond. I would not probably start Clay on. But I don't think Clay is big enough. He's too big to play. He's too big to play. Hey, Clay is not. If the injuries have robbed Clay of a lot of his lateral quickness, a lot of his ability to hunker down.
Yeah, it'll be Draymond. He's crafty enough to sort of match him in his weird, awkward way.
But he better not get in foul trouble because we're going to go for 50.
All I know is that last night, as I tweeted, the visiting team, the Dallas Mavericks, basically mooned the Suns in their own building. That's what they did. They mooned the Suns, right?
Yeah.
It was a debacle of a disaster.
I don't know about, I mean, the Game 7, I'm trying to think, when have I seen the Game 7 where the road team just basically took apart the whole thing? I can't recall a game, because, the crowd get into it. The crowd was never in the game. You got an opportunity to get to the game. Because by the time everybody feels to the end, and it went through the first, and at the end of the first, it's 27-20, and next
thing you know, it's 30-10 in the second quarter. The game's over.
10 in the second quarter? How can it be 30-10?
How you only get 10 points in 12 minutes?
How can you have 27? Although that game just came off and had him. And another. I'm pretty good with my eye test. Dave McMenamin of ESPN reported that sources told him there's a quad injury, but I'm pretty good with my eye test. So are you. Did you see any indication? I couldn't see it. I'm sorry, and nobody's thinking you have a list on injuries, but obviously, I can't fathom that. It feels excuse-driven to me.
That wouldn't seem like to be skipping. You mentioned Luka is not a great three-point shooter. But you know, if that three ball is falling, with his ability to get you have to get there's nothing you can do because there's nobody. We've seen Kawhi, we've seen Paul George, we've seen some elite defenders that cannot keep this man from getting where he wants to get. So if that three ball starts to fall, it's over. It's over for him.
And it looked like he made his first three, and they were looking at each other like, well, we're done.
Yeah.
We got no short.
They hit no minutes, nothing but that. So they hit no rim, and he started early. He started looking around, he started smiling, he started laughing at the crowd. He said something the other night, I think it was Friday night. He said, talk now. He hit a shot and then called and Phoenix called a timeout. And he looked at Devin Booker, talk now.
Listen, I got to tell you, and I'm old school about this. He flat out laughs at his opponents. He's laughing up the floor. Shannon Sharp, back in the day, would not have loved that. The point is, the thing I cannot take away from Luka Doncic is he flat out backs it up. And when he backs it up in the lane, mano a mano, it's hard to argue with it because the losing team has to say, well, you can't fight back because your feet is on the scoreboard and in the lane.
If I put my best defense, let's just say I'm playing football, and you got a receiver, and I got my best corner, and he's torching my best corner, what can I do as a defensive coordinator? I want to get the head coach and say, that's my best guy. That's what Yale Bridges. He finished second to Marcus Smart. And he's eating him up like he's a kid, like he's just a role player, like he's at the back of the field. Jay Crowder, it doesn't matter. DeAndre Ayton, Booker, it did not matter who they put on his gift. I mean, so what are you supposed to do?
Here's what I admired the most about last night. Luka is finally finding the balance between me and them, me and them. It's a hard balance to find. It takes all the greatness. It took Jordan a long time to figure out how to get them involved because you can't do 1-on-5 every game, all game long. So look what he did last night. He managed to give Jalen Brunson 19 shots, which is what Luka took. He took 19 shots, and Brunson gave you 24. And he managed to get Dinwiddie 15 shots. And Dinwiddie goes crazy and makes 5 of 7 threes and gives you 30 points, along with Luka's 35. When you got those three like that, you're going to get shot out of your own place. And they did. Okay, let's look back now at what happened. A flashpoint moment. 8:26 was left in the third quarter. And all of a sudden, Monty Williams yanks DeAndre Ayton. And according to people that I talked to, they got into it on the sidelines so badly that they had to be restrained by other players on the bench and pulled back apart. And I talked to our friend Lil Wayne, who was courtside on the far side, and he said it looked to him, or I don't think he could hear it, but he probably read the lips, it looked like Monty said something to Ayton about, you freaking quit on us. And I do not doubt that for 1 second because the problem with DeAndre Ayton, whose contract is still up for grabs.
Probably still seeing that they didn't give him the
That is correct. But his motor runs low. It does not ever run hot. And the problem is, in a game 7, you need your big man to impose his will from the start.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him an equal share of blame because Monty got into it with it, and then when Monty was asked about it after the game, he just said, that's internal. Period in the comment. I'm not going to talk about that. So,
but I did sit his ass for the rest of the game. And I chose to do that.
The savage would get nothing. It was the game. But he didn't even let him see the line of play.
I mean, look at that 5 guys. What everybody was first of all? He should be playing the role. We don't make the right kind of play together. He should be putting up Giannis. I don't know if he gets it. Come on, man.
locked in, blah, blah, blah. So you got to show me that what you got to apply.
You got to go, we're going to be locked in. So I guess the other people we can't get locked in. Booker came out, they came out for sure. That bad is like this. Even when they lost the first 2 games, that came like this going on. Let's just do what we got. I don't know how he did it, but this is the same team that barely played any defense the last 3 quarters. He got locked in.
Thank you for bringing that up. Last night, the real MVP of Dallas Mavericks was Jason Kidd. I'm going to remind you, the Lakers showed up completely out of shape to take on the season. We did not like it. So, they were 17 and 18 on January 1st. Think about that. Concept of elder turnover. They were 17 and 18. And also, Jason Kidd has that strategy you could, but you have to have a defense backbone. He started doing with the Mavericks when he made the build and did himself right. Gave them some character, some toughness, some backbone. And all of a sudden, they started to play, what do you think is like a playoff caliber defense like they never played before. And yet, remember after game 2, the big story was, all we did is hunt them. Well, we did, but I'm not even looking for how defense just gets them left not participate on defense. He participated. Yeah, I was watching it closely. A lot of times last night, he just played kind of weird one-man zone where he would just fade around, drop into the middle. He was trying to step out of Paul's leg where on the Booker, they would just pick him off and get him wherever they want on Booker, and then Booker would come.
Yeah, they don't beat you with the initial move. If they got to go to a second move, we got help coming. You got it. Remember in 2011, the Mavericks won the defensive base too. You look at Steve, you look at Marion, you look at Tyson Chandler. So now you put Reggie Bullock, now you put Finney Smith. Now they're in the starting lineup. Yeah, they can shoot the ball. They also compete because you need defender skill to help with Luka because Luka, like I said, they're going to hold Luka. The Lakers, the past 2 years, we want Luka. We look at Luka. But you know what? Since everybody wants to be Devin, I'm going to be and so now Luka, he'll hunt LeBron, he'll hunt Giannis, he'll hunt Chris Paul, he'll hunt anybody like, oh, y'all want to hunt me. I got to put things in the ball off. Like you said, fine line. Sometimes you get all the dollars and cents to them, and then everybody else just sitting around, okay, do your thing. But last night, if you let them play like this, everybody gets you 20. And in the second half, you got Russell going to give you 22. Somebody will get you a beat this game.
And here's what impressed me the most. Reggie Bullock shoot the lights out on any given night.
Right.
He's 1 of 4 from 3. We know that Finney Smith can shoot every light out of anything, especially at home, and he was 1 of 3. And we know that he just went crazy to shoot the corner threes like PJ Tucker, and he took 1 in 8 because only 1. So those guys, they did no damage. That's got to be pretty scary to the Golden State Warriors that they did that to Phoenix without those 3 going on.
Just like Golden State. So who's going to take and make 3? That's what it's going to come down to. Because Luka getting the play, I don't care what it was. You better keep Draymond out of 5. So I'm thinking they're going to probably start Draymond. I would not put probably start Clay. But I don't think Clay is good enough. He's too big for Clay. He's too big for Clay. And Clay is not. The injuries have drawn Clay. A lot of his lateral quickness, a lot of his ability to hunker down.
Yeah, it would be Draymond. He's crafty enough to sort of match it in his weird talk.
But he's going to get a foul trouble. So Luka goes to miss.
All I know is last night, team, the Dallas Mavericks basically moved the Suns in their own building. That's what they did. They moved the Suns, right?
Yeah.
And it was a debacle of a disaster.
I don't know. I mean, the game 7. I'm trying to think. When have I seen a game 7 or team took apart? I can't recall the game because the crowd get into it. The crowd was never in the game. Got an opportunity to get into the game because by the time everybody built it in, and it's went through the first, and at the end of the first, it's 27-20. Next thing you know, it's 30-18, and in the second quarter, the game's over.
In the second, how can it be 30-18
about 50 assists in a series. And he's doing it against the best defensive team in all of basketball. And so we knew the likelihood of him shooting a high percentage because they got a lot of big, long, athletic guys that can bother him. They run a lot of different guys. Okay, Al Horford, you start on him. Grant Williams, we're going to give you a crack at him also. Hey, Tice, come in and give us 6-7 minutes. We want you to bother him also. Even though the last 3 or 4 games, they didn't have Robert Williams, but early on, they even threw Robert Williams at him. Then you got Tatum, you got Brown, you got Marcus Smart. Who's constantly digging at the ball. This is like you said, they did a great job. They did a great job. Undeterred. I'm going to give Giannis a lot of credit. He was undeterred by that. He see the ball, he got him undercharged. So he's like, I got to get to the ring. And he's trying to get to the ring. He's like, you know what? I got 3 guys. King of Winston Matthew, who gave me 1 or 5 minutes.
at halftime. Well, that's not unusual. 16 from the floor. But worse, he was 1 of 10 on contested shots in the second half. And maybe just as bad, he was 3 of 11. 3 of 11? Okay, so I'm going to bottom line this at he gets 75% of Milwaukee's play because he's the best player on the planet. And I have to gauge him, judge him, rank him with the bar set at the very top according to Shannon Sharp. So I'm going to give you 75% of play because he's the best player on the planet. Let's give it something like that. The Dave, unfortunately, he didn't go along to start. But here's the thing. The Dave looked one player. Dragging the team. The teams are too talented now. It does not matter. We saw Luka put up the when other guys don't come along. We saw Luka last year against no clip. When other guys don't come along, nobody is talented enough now. The league is too good. The players are too good to let one player beat them over the course of the series. So you're right. They started contesting shots and he missed a lot of shots that he knew they would make. That was his second half of 12 misses, 4 of 16 shots. Well, if he makes his money, I don't know if he puts a lot more pressure on Boston's home shooter.
Yeah, but I still don't believe that. I think the way the game is going, yeah, he'd have a great stat line. The percentage would have been 10 of 26. It would have been 15 of 27. But I don't know. Let's get this notion. We look at Shaq. Let's take Shaq from 99 to 2000. Shaq was the best player. Nobody said, well, Shaq ain't got no mid-range game. Nobody said Shaq can't shoot free throws. Nobody said Shaq couldn't swing free. And he was. Now, regardless of he can't shoot three, or either turn free or shooter, it's like we don't want the reason not to give the man the credit that he rightfully deserves. Nobody has an impressive resume over the last 4 years. He's a 2 back-to-back champ. He's a defensive player of the year. He's a finals MVP. Nobody can say they've had that on their resume. It wasn't the best player. He did not play. He did not shoot the ball. He said him out there. He shoot that out. Give the degree of difficulty to the defense when he does money. I didn't think he shot right in the ball. But for him to shoot 46%, give us the
What was that?
I give you that. I give you Chris Middleton. I've told you. Chris Middleton, unfortunately for your case, is the closer on that team, and they didn't have their closer. And Giannis, if we go back a game,
Game 6.
or 2 games ago, he made some huge threes, and I give him credit for that because he was trying to be the closer in Game 5, and he pretty much pulled it off.
Right.
But in the end, if you are the best player on the planet, which I do not believe ever that he was, then you have to close that deal by yourself. And he just couldn't do it. He came up about 6 feet 2 inches tall in the fourth quarter in the second half yesterday.
The guy had gave you 44, 20, and 5, 44, 20, and 6. The difference was now you got Middleton to give you what he gives you. Look at Jason Tatum. Okay, Jason Tatum was sensational, and I won't take that away from him. But it was also Marcus Smart. It was also Jaylen Brown chipping in. Well, he got nobody to trip in. Grayson Allen gave him nothing. Portis and the other Wesley Matthews, they gave him nothing. Yep. At some point in time, even when KD had that historic monster game, it was Jeff Green's 8 of 9 from the 3. It was Blake Griffin's 19 that got him over the hump. And so if he had lost that game, nobody was going to say, well, but KD, you got to deliver that. No, somebody's got to come along the way. These guys, Skip, are too. I'm not saying they're better, but they're more, the talent level of these guys. Skip, you got guys you ain't heard of that'll go get you a 50-piece now. It used to be the 50-point games were reserved for the superstars. The Birds, the Jordans, the Kobe's. Skip, guys I ain't even heard of it drop 50. Such and such had 50. Such and such had 40. Like, how? Dude was like the 7th guy on the team, and how the hell did he get 50?
Yep.
Give Boston credit, Skip. Yes, Giannis did not play his best the last game, and he didn't shoot a great percentage. But I think a lot of that has to do with Boston Celtics. We saw what they did. They held Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is almost 30-point-a-game scorer in the playoffs. They held him to 3 under that. Giannis gave you 35, basically 34, 15, and 7 on 46% shooting. And given that the wall was there, and he's not a great outside shooter, for him to get 46 to average what he averaged, they probably should, had Giannis not been what he was, they would have gotten swept like the team previous before them.
Okay. I will give you also Grant Williams. Who saw that coming? He is capable, but he's also capable of missing every one of them because he made his first one yesterday, and then he missed 5 of his next 6, and you think he's an also-ran, like, stop shooting.
Right.
And then he keeps shooting because he said everybody kept telling him, he said 15 guys on the bench are telling me, please keep shooting because they're daring you to shoot.
Yes.
And he winds up making 7 of 18. Well, the percentage isn't great, but when you can make 7, and Jason Tatum wasn't great yesterday, but he was pretty good.
The first half, he was sensational.
He was, and he ended up making 5 threes, so that helps. And then your little man Pritchard comes off the bench, and he was the one who gave him the voltage and the electricity.
He's talking about that's what I do.
Okay, well, fine. That is what he does.
That's what he does.
He believes it, and they believe it, and so he plays a crucial but small role on this team.
Skip, I did not think a team that shot as many threes as the Celtics were shooting could beat this team because they shot 50 the first game, and I'm like, that's too many threes. But they said if you look at this height, you look at Portis and you look at Lopez, you look at Giannis. Skip, but another thing. At what point in time does Brook Lopez say, Skip, the first quarter he's dominating? Inside they give him the ball, he turned around, he leave his hand up in the air. He leave it there. But then all of a sudden in the second quarter, he want to pop threes. He want to pop outside and shoot threes. Why? Bro, they don't got a guy. The tallest guy on their team is 6'9". You 7'2". Why the hell do you want to shoot threes? Get your big butt down on the block and dominate.
He is their DeAndre Ayton, low motor, nice guy, really a nice guy, but no killer in him. So you have to try to keep lighting his fire.
Well, he killed his team.
He was, I agree. But when he decides, when he has an advantage, he can be lethal in the post because he's just so long and tall. So guess who's up next? My Miami Heat, the team I picked to win it all.
Right.
Here's what you're up against.
You nervous?
No, I'm not. Because Miami led the league in three-point shooting and led the league in three-point shooting defense. So all of a sudden, I like that matchup. Boston is much bigger and sort of stronger and more bully-esque than Miami is. But Miami plays hellacious, smart, hard defense. And Jimmy Buckets can be playoff Jimmy. You don't think he's a superstar, but you got it in 6?
No.
Well, why don't you go lower?
Well,
I mean, you got
home court.
Yeah, we do have.
You got home court.
Yeah,
but it won't last long. It won't last long.
Really?
Yeah.
So. Well,
so whatever you thinking, I want all of it. If you want 2 cases, 3 cases, 4 cases, I want it all. All you can spare.
On the series or on game 1?
On the series. I mean, you got some in the shed. You got a couple of my cases in the shed stored up.
I got a couple of 90. Yeah. So what would you like on game 1?
Make it out of yourself.
Yeah, let me.
No, I don't want no game 1. I want the series. I want the series.
I like game 1. I like Miami.
I know you do like one. They've been all rested up, and guys still the Celtics still have that euphoria from knocking off the Bucks. Had to go to Milwaukee and win a game 6. Great game. Jason Tatum was sensational. And then to come back and finish it up at home, I want this series. I want 6 games. It ain't going past 6.
Really?
And you keep talking, I might say 5. Change my mind and say 5.
I'm still talking, and I dare you to go 5. I dare you to go 5.
We'll see how I play out tonight.
Yeah.
We see how to play out tonight.
Okay.
If the game close tonight, even if the Celtics lose.
Not tonight.
I mean, tomorrow night. Excuse me.
Yeah.
If the game is close, even if the Celtics lose, I'll probably take it.
I wish the game were tonight. That would be cool.
I bet you want to play back-to-back playoff game.
Yeah, on the road.
You dirty, man.
Yeah.
Just played at home. We got to get on the plane and go play tonight.
I like the Heat in 7 games, and I'm sticking by it.
So they ain't going past 6.
Okay.
Celtics in 6.
Good luck.
Hey, you got to take every advantage you can possibly have when it comes to playoff basketball, right, gentlemen?
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.
Well, damn. I mean, that's true. Some would think I don't have an explanation, but I actually do. You see, when they asked me about that, y'all, I thought they were asking me about Cowboys. That's what I thought they were asking me about. I didn't know they were asking me about the Bears. I had no idea. But now that we have seen what we have seen,
unbelievable.
I got a lot of explaining to do. You know JJ Redick is in here ready to hold me accountable because he think he Judge Judy. I mean, he is the male version of Judge Judy. And of course, you think I talk smack. You think I talk smack. Wait till you see this brother right here in studio with us. I am a quiet boy compared to him. How you doing, Mom?
Hey, morning. Good to see you. Good job this weekend.
That's right.
What is dark here for Dallas? On the road for the Game 7.
Doncic.
Yeah, I can't change the culture. I see that hate, so say what you say, because I gotta watch for the vultures.
Luka Doncic is absolutely putting on a show here in the Valley.
This is Phoenix's biggest deficit all season.
And the booze cascading down.
They ain't never seen it like me. Got my team right beside me.
Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks are going to the Western Conference Finals.
I mean, 2 Game 7s yesterday, and talk about this crew right here. Stephen A. Smith, the one and only Pat Beverly. Great to have you in studio, sir. Great job on Get Up. I was watching you, and of course, JJ Redick. Gentlemen.
I just want to say, y'all be nice. Y'all be nice. You know what I'm saying? Both of y'all.
You're pointing
you my little brother now. Don't ignore that.
I got to say, he is a little scared today because what he thinks is going to happen here is that you and I are going to tag team and team up.
Oh, that's what y'all do.
That's what he
That's
thinks.
what y'all do. I know how y'all roll.
And he doesn't know how you're going to come, so yeah, he's nervous about it.
Trust me, I know that's my little brother right there. I know how he's going to come at me. How's Mama? Everybody?
She's good. She's good. Thank you for asking, brother. Thank you.
Mr. Bell.
All right, gentlemen, let's do it. A lot to unpack. So, as I mentioned, 2 Game 7s on Sunday as Luka and the Mavs said no mas to the number 1 seeded Phoenix Suns. Not just sending them packing in Phoenix, but blowing them out by 33. There are levels to this, and Luka is on another one, 35, 10, and 4. Here's Jason Kidd on silencing those critics.
We don't know how far this can go. That's why we got to play them. That's why we showed up to play this evening. No one gave us a chance. A lot of people said it was going to be a blowout. Well, they were right, but they didn't have us on the winning side.
Were you aware at halftime you had as many points as the Suns?
Oh yeah, of course. It was a good old-fashioned ass whooping.
All right, Chris Paul had 10, Devin Booker 11. Stephen A., I'll start with you here. What went wrong for the Suns?
Everything. That's the first answers. Props to the Dallas Mavericks. I got to apologize. I didn't see this coming. I knew Luka was going to do what he was going to do. I had no idea Spencer Dinwiddie would play like that. I thought Jalen Brunson would do his thing. But to be up by 30 at the half, or Luka to have as many points as the Phoenix Suns in the first half, for them to be up as many as 46 in a Game 7. It was the largest halftime deficit in the history of a Game 7. It was one of the largest deficits, the 46-point deficit in NBA history. It was a complete catastrophe on the part of the Phoenix Suns. It don't get much worse than what we saw yesterday. DeAndre Ayton, good luck in getting your max dollars. That's going to be compromised. You, Devin Booker, you still a star. Mad respect for you in the whole bit. But a Game 7 defines legacy. We all know this. When you don't show up in a Game 7 in epic fashion the way that they did yesterday, that is the kind of stuff that stays attached to you throughout your career unless you offset it by coming back to win a championship. That's just the way it is, JJ and Bev. Y'all know that. That's number 2. Number 3, I'm sad for my man Chris Paul because from the moment he turned 37, he's been awful. Averaging 9 points, 3.5 turnovers. I don't know what the hell happened to him over the last 4 or 5 games. When they lost 4 of those last 5 games, I don't know what the hell happened. Since he dropped 28 points in Game 2, Chris Paul has made 18 shots and has committed 18 turnovers the rest of this series. That's all he did. And so when you look at it from that perspective, I know they think they'll be back next year, but I'm looking at all the teams in the Western Conference, and I got serious concerns about the future. It was very, very bad. Period. No excuses. They got their butts whipped.
No, they're not going back. They're not going back. The NBA is going to be way more healthier next year. The competition is going to be stiff. People understand the way to win against Phoenix, and that is attacking Chris Paul. If you watch the game, if I'm a coach and if I'm playing Phoenix Suns in the playoffs, I'm holding my hat on that. It worked. Wear them down, make them play D, make them score, make them facilitate, and we will have our hats at the end of who will win. And that's what Dallas did. You have to give Jason Kidd a lot of credit. A A lot of credit. He did a hell of a job.
I've talked about the Phoenix Suns in a glowing light all season. I've talked about Book and CP in a glowing light all season. And CP is a dear friend, but they deserve all the slander that they are going to get over the coming weeks and months for that Game 7 performance.
And they talk so much. Oh my God.
We talked. I was on here last.
I'll come back to you.
I was on here last week, and we've said the same thing. I said the same thing as you. I think it was 2-2. I said ultimately, I think Suns win this series. I did Game 6 on Thursday, and I think Dallas had figured them out. And I had a really hard time believing that they were going to win yesterday. That Suns would be able to win yesterday. Luka came out. He snatched their soul. Like there was something that happened there in that first quarter and a half, where he just took their soul. He took all the life out of that team. That's how good he is. To your point, they attacked CP. Game 6 and 7, CP scored 23 points. As the primary defender, when he was guarding, he gave up 33 points. 118 points per possession when he was the primary defender in Game 6 and 7. That's league best offense.
I'm looking at as you know those numbers. I'm looking at
that is league best offense. So the formula: you blitz CP, you don't play drop, you force him to his left hand, and you attack him. Because when you get down to the playoffs, we've seen this year especially. When you get down to the playoffs, what matters? Size matters.
Right.
You need big wings. You need a player like Giannis. That's why losing Chris Middleton was so important, for the Celtics to win that series. You need size. And I love CP. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest point guards of all time. He's one of them, Pat. He's absolutely one of them.
This one to let up.
But I do question if he is your best player.
Right.
If he is your best player, is your ceiling a championship team? Well, and so far, historically, the answer to that is no.
The ceiling is not a championship team. That's number one. Let's get that out of the way. You get blown out and you down by 46 in the Game 7 on your home court. Everything goes out the window. Yep. You have been significantly humbled and exposed. Those are the two words that come to my mind: humble and exposed. Yeah, Luka did what he did, but I'm not surprised by that. I expected Luka to do his thing. What I didn't expect is that the reason why I picked the Phoenix Suns to win this game is because they were getting blown out on the road and they were winning at home. The role players seemed to be different in Dallas than they were when they went on the road. And that's what I was counting on. I was thinking about Game 7. Pressurized environment that's going to have to come down to Luka, and Luka alone wins you at home, but on the road not so much. So I was assuming that Phoenix was going to do what they were supposed to do in Game 7. But let's call it what it is. They got their ass kicked, and I mean thoroughly. It was a beat down. And if you are Devin Booker, you've also been humbled because again, Luka is such a star. That was your opportunity to remind everybody you were 1-2. And so you're a part of that team that gets blown out that way. You have absolutely no answer whatsoever. It comes down to that. But I'll go to you, Bev, because I want you to elaborate. You're talking about Phoenix talk so much. Give us some perspective, some insight on what it's like to play against the Phoenix.
I mean, we are in Phoenix. We're playing against them, and we're going to see you guys in the playoff. You guys are going to be the AC. You guys who we want to see. But I'm going to pause it right there. All right. If Kawhi's not hurt, Phoenix doesn't go to the championship last year.
No, I agree with that.
Let's be honest.
No, I agree with that.
So now, why are we the next year talking about how great?
Because they turned around and they won 64 games.
And they're a seasoned team. Their system is great. Their system is a system that all the players know. Their coach, they have all the players coming back. They had the main court in there. They added CT. Their coach is phenomenal. Of course, you're supposed to win a lot of games. You may have to win a lot of games. And then get going without saying it's not.
I agree that, but I'm saying if they don't win, they win yesterday. We're not saying that, but they had won 64. That's why we anticipated they were going to the conference finals. I thought Golden State was going to take them out. That was my belief going in. From beat Phoenix, and they were going to take them out because Dallas was a body.
She wanted the first round.
Minnesota wanted the
first round.
Call Anthony Towns.
Anthony Towns was one of the first round.
That's
you guys could have lost. We want to go through that, but I didn't see there's an element here. I talked about the there's an element here. Excellent play. I think it's important for them. Okay. The Phoenix Suns have one of the worst shot profiles in the modern NBA. What are the teams trying to get? Threes? They have free girls, right? You're right. They operate in the mid-range. They're bottom 5 in the league in the regular season in three-point attempts. They're bottom 5 in the league in the regular season in free throw attempts per game. Now in the playoffs, they're 15th out of 16 in those opportunities. And what Dallas did in this series, they're up on every Chris Paul pick and roll. They're late switching on every. He can't get to that elbow jumper. Devin Booker, every time he gets a dribble handoff, every time he's in a pick and roll, they're blitzing that action. And the Suns don't have that third guy. They don't have that third perimeter floor.
We're not having a conversation about why he is. We're having a conversation about why.
It says on the. It says down there. For 3 minutes.
We're not having a conversation about why he is. We're having a conversation about why he's down. 30 at the half.
They were scared.
So now that's what are you saying to that?
That's what players can see in the house. They were scared. It ain't about moving, taking it. So they knew starting the game what was going to happen. He's done it before. They watch us. They have an iPhone. They have Instagram. They see the numbers of Luka Doncic averaging 39. They hear me saying that he did it to me. He did it to me. Kawhi Paul doing it. Damn sure he gonna do it to them. They know that. Boy, it's gonna move. Ain't nobody afraid of anybody over there in Phoenix, man. Everybody in the league knows that, bro. Like it's just, but y'all don't know that because y'all not in the rock room. No one's afraid of Phoenix. We wanted them. No one's afraid of Phoenix. I would say we get them. I talked to Paul George last night, man. Ain't nobody scared of them. But if you face Dallas, you ain't scared of Dallas, but man, you scared of them. Hey man, you gotta get the game right when you play with them. I'm just being honest.
I want to go back to something really quick that you said earlier, that you don't think CP3 is one of the greatest point guards.
My opinion.
Tell me why.
If I did a job, and I had the freedom to do a job for 17 years, and I got the keys to the Lamborghini in order to do the job, and I did it, and I was healthy, I took care of my body, I did all the small things to be to stay consistent in this league, and I did it for 17 years, I gotta have nothing. That's what I'm saying. But J.J. Redick was playing with freedom for 17 years. The way he played in the Clippers, if he played like that for 17 years, he had a 3-point. He had a record. No disrespect to Steph Curry. I'm just saying, over a long period of time, you should get those numbers. And over a long period of time, you play the game long enough, you will get them.
But doesn't the brother deserve credit for lasting that long? And being in the league that long?
And being good enough to be given the keys. Like, we're not giving the keys to the Lambo to any driver.
But then what about the clutch moments?
Well, this is where, to me, we're going to bring out his playoff failures. Chris Paul, over his career, has been better in the playoffs than in the regular season. These 5 games, he was terrible. He was terrible. This was not the CP3 that we've gotten used to. The one thing, you bring up a valid point about, the legacy and the opinion of it being based on his freedom, right? I get it. But you still have to be good enough to be given freedom. You still have to be good enough. You still have to be good enough to do it that long, Pat. You know that. You still, those guys that do it for 2 or 3 years, to do it for 17 years at his level. He hasn't done it for 17 years. He's done it for 13. That's a different player.
Okay, but there's another.
Being honest, I'm just not going to let y'all up here. And I'm going to be like, oh, okay, I see.
We don't want you to do that.
We're actually first. We good. There's no problem. There's no problem. But I want to ask questions to both of you guys. It's a very important question. CP3 turned 37 last Friday. And from the moment he turned 37, for these last 5 games, it just plummeted. I'm looking at CP3 numbers here. 28.4 million next season. 30.8 million the season after that.
That's 39.
30.8 million. 30.8 million in 2024-25. That's a partial.
There is a partial support.
It's a partial. What I'm asking is this. So we got 2.5 years left. He gonna make this money. He's gonna be in there, whatever. Was the last 5 games an aberration? Or was it an indication of things to come? Because does it hit you that quick, that drastic, where there's just a complete drop-off that you can't recover from? Or are we going to just sit up here and say, CP3 had a bad 5?
I just think I'm going to go first. You go ahead. Last, you said 37 5 days ago?
Last Friday.
That's when the game plan changed to start attacking this.
Okay. 9 days ago.
To be a two-way player in this league is extremely hard. We don't give them enough credit. To be able to play defense, to be able to play, make, facilitate, and get your own bucket is extremely hard. extremely hard for anybody at whatever age. That's all I'm saying. It just took his legs away from him. It took his legs away from him, and there was a reason why he was shooting a high percentage. He shot all spot-ups. He didn't have to move. Look at the game. Look at the game. Just look at the game. He shot all spot-ups. Spot-ups track.
And I agree, but what I'm saying is based on what you're saying. Is that what we should expect from him in the future?
Man, if I'm a coach next year, man, I'm doing the same game plan. With Chris Paul, maybe not for the season, because he can get away from the season. I'm not going to call on that chicken tax stuff. They're going to send CP to the free throw line 13, 14 times later. The playoffs, if I'm a coach, man, I'll be attacking him from the start. Let's see how I domino from.
The blueprint is absolutely there for how to attack the playoffs. But he'll probably have another great season, and if they keep this core together, the Phoenix Suns will win a lot of games. They probably won't win 64 next year. But to keep size on them, to blitz them, to be up and pick and roll. You think about last year against you guys when Zubac was on the floor, when Jokic was on the floor against Denver. We watched the first round against Valanciunas. Like, you just can't play drop coverage in the playoffs against CP. I don't understand why teams would do that. And credit to Dallas, they made that adjustment. And then, as you said, like, size matters. At this point, at 37, will be 38 next year in the playoffs. The size matters. It will catch up to them. Yes, absolutely.
All right, I think we're letting Devin Booker off. We're just focusing on Chris Paul here. I ended up for a series 0 for 11 from 3-point.
After taking out the defending champs in 7 games, the Celtics now turn their attention to the 1-seeded Miami Heat. Don't forget, Boston got the better of Miami during the regular season, winning 2 of those 3 matchups. So, Shannon, now that it's the postseason, who wins this?
In this Elden Ring video, I'm going to talk about how to make a beginner paladin build, what class you should choose, how do you get off to the start in order to create a sort of paladin archetype. Now, there are a few classes you can choose from when making this build. I like to go with the Confessor class. I feel like it has a pretty good kit, pretty good stat-wise and equipment-wise. It has a 100% physical block shield, although that will be replaced rather early on. It has a couple of miracles, a talisman, and it's just a good all-around starting class. And it has, like, some sort of, like, Inquisitor-looking attire, which I really like the look of, although you'll probably want to replace that for better armor later on. You can also go Prophet for this build if you want even more faith, but the outfit that you start with is kind of, it's not so good. And it doesn't really have a paladin feel to it, it's more of a faith caster setup. Or you could go Vagabond, which is even more tanky than the Confessor, but doesn't really have that faith that you want. So I feel like Confessor is the best choice here. I mean, 100% physical block mitigation shield, but it has higher guard boost. Guard boost reduces not very far from the very beginning of the game. You're going to farm the enemies there with the shield. They'll have to have it equipped in order for them to drop it. You'll notice who they are. Should get the shield unless you get luckier and it drops earlier. This is another 100% physical block mitigation shield, but it has higher guard boost. Guard boost.